Hello and welcome back to the Deep Thought playthrough of 999. We've just escaped a fire, and now we're seeing what happens after that. That's a weird angle.
Yeah, what are we like on the ground looking up, or am I looking at a wall?
Maybe it's like angled like towards down, because kind of look like the inside of the laboratory.
Oh yeah, we were doing stuff there and a thing blew up and it was all Lotus's fault, right?
Yeah, it was Lotus's fault. Totally blaming on her.
Sweet.
Oh, look. Everyone's back.
Oh, lovely. I heard a voice, and by that you can pretty much just assume whose voice it was.
Yeah, it's June. So, what could this implicate?
That we've made zero to no progress, and that all these puzzles are a fucking sham. And Zero is really getting his fucking kicks with this whole damn game.
He probably is. Well, it's not in a complete waste. We at least found some keys to maybe look into the more doors.
But why would we want to do that when we can just solve more puzzles?
That's kind of what we're supposed to do. If we find the doors, then we can solve more puzzles. So, kind of comes around full circle.
See, I would have just used the doors to leave more people behind, following Lotus's lead. It's like, who wants to go in this door? You? Alright, there you go. Bye-bye. Close the door.
Just get out the people that you don't like. Like Clover, for instance.
Just get rid of her. Just leave her out. You're more of a hassle at this point. You're not even a liability, because you're worse than that.
Yeah, but honestly, I wouldn't want anyone to go out the way that the ninth man went out, because it's a bit too harsh for my tastes.
I do like it too how Seven's like, that's how the nonary game works. Like, oh, so now you know how this game works? I'm sorry, did you design the game? How do we know that Zero isn't just gonna like randomly throw a kink in the rules, right? Like, how can you have any sort of confidence on how the game works?
Yeah, how do you know he doesn't have a remote control, and when he presses it, one of us will explode at random?
That would have been hilarious, and it would have been fun, and it would turn this into a Mario Party spin-off.
Yes, it would have.
Just randomly, you, beep, boop.
Oh, and we're back in the hospital room. So, yeah.
Oh, hey, look, there's that old man we allowed to get high and die. Oops, we're back.
Well, he seems to be okay about it. At least we came back.
Which was probably the last thing he was expecting.
Yeah, you could say that. So at least we know that Zero's probably definitely not going to separate any of the groups. Never planned to.
Permanently, at least. That's at least no permanent split of the teams. Because, you gotta keep them small for the puzzle rooms. Otherwise, the dialogue boxes just get way too confusing for the writers.
Yeah, it is a good thing that we see each other again. 7. It's very good for pointing that out.
It's all about that team building. He actually wants to maintain the relationships. But, like I said, if I was playing this game, I'd be whatever I need to stay alive and get the fuck out. Like, yeah, I can be nice if I want to occasionally, but being nice isn't the priority. The priority is staying alive and getting out.
Oh yes, please let us hold more keys. How do we fit all this stuff in our pockets, by the way?
Zelda pockets. Also, I don't know if we've seen it yet, but Junpei's got kind of a spiffy vest, so he's got pockets.
Yeah.
I do like how he called the Jupiter symbol the number 4. It's like, yeah, it kinda does, but just shows how out of his element with these planetary symbols he is. It's like, that's a fancy 4. No, it's Jupiter, Junpei. And that's not just a circle with an X, that's Earth.
And the, what was it, Mercury? The Mercury symbol is Lotus, because she has the horns.
Junpei is such a kid. It's like you're what, 21? Dude, no.
Yep, Clover wants to go into the door number 3. I can't imagine why.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm kind of with her when she's saying that, when she's questioning whether there's no point. It's like, honestly, you're gathering the key, so there is a point to it. And you can't really be like, oh no, we'd be backtracking, because how do you know? Yeah, there are maps of the boats, but you don't know exactly which path in the boat leads to the exit. For all you know, clearing out the other 2 rooms was necessary in order to go through the 3rd door and make it to the exit. So, again, the characters are starting to build this confidence in what they perceive to be how the game works, but when you realize that, no, you don't actually know. Yeah, you're basing it off previous patterns, but you don't know for a fact whether those patterns work. For all you know, going back to your original rooms with the keys is probably how you get out. You don't know.
To be honest, she wants to go in there to find her brother, but I think it's still a good idea because there's obviously another puzzle room beyond that place. Don't know if her brother is there or not at this point, but there's probably another key card or a key in there, so it could be useful in the future. So yeah, I'd say to go for it. We could probably find some ways to find something to do to pass the time.
She has a point I agree with, but her reason I don't. But you know, in a life or death situation, who cares what each other's reasons are, so long as you end up going where you want to go. Although it would just really be a pain if, hey, this is actually the path to the exit, and you just see her over in the corner crying because she still can't find her brother. It's like, look, just ignore him for about 10 seconds, get off the boat, we'll come back with a search party, and they can scan the entire boat for your brother. Again, it's like this whole mental breakdown she has seems way too extreme for an 18-year-old to have over her brother.
I guess it just shows how attached she is to him. Like, we don't necessarily know what kind of relationship they had in the past. I mean, considering that Snake is blind, they have something.
I guess. So then you got a question. Is she more worried about him because he's blind, or is she worried for him because of herself? Like, can she not go on without him, or is she legitimately unselfishly worried about him? Because that seems even less rational, because we've seen that he's very self-sufficient, so she should know that better than anyone else. But I guess it could be like with a parent that's like, they still want to cling on no matter how self-sufficient or independent they get. So they like you described it best, they have a weird relationship and we don't really know the extent of it.
Yeah, well, she has been separated from him for about let's say 2 hours. I think the last time check was of a 1 a.m. and I think it's been roughly 30 minutes or so since that, game-wise, not real time, obviously. But, yeah, that could very well be the case. If you can't really handle being away from your sibling for as little as 2 hours, then, yeah, that may be a sign of that you probably have a strong bond for them, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
What a very PC way of putting it. They have a strong bond, instead of putting a dependent relationship.
That's the only words that came to my head. So, might as well, discuss what we're doing right now. So while those, 3 people are in the number 3 door, was it 3 people? Yeah, it was 3 people. We are looking at the, other locations where the, we could use these keys. So, getting split up, and we, Junpei and June, are heading for the elevators that are... Where are they? Are they on like the B deck or the C deck? I think the B deck.
They're on a deck, and it also is... they obviously go to this elevator because there's a note that... Or not a note, but... Within this game, even though we're getting keys, some of these keys are in the form of actual metal keys, but some of the keys are in the form of key cards.
So now we're looking into the elevator. And obviously, it's one of the only things that works. That's notable.
Yeah. Well, okay, so stuff has been working in this place. Stuff that is electricity based has been working on this boat pretty well. The computer, the science lab was working until it all exploded. Thanks a lot for that, Lotus. But having the elevators work doesn't really seem that outrageous or all that new, because, I mean, think of all the scanners. Something's got to be running those, and those, so far, thankfully, have been working as intended.
And now we get to possibly one of the more entertaining parts of the entire game, because she doesn't want to go down the elevator for some reason, and we have a choice as to what we think is why. So she was afraid of going down because the D deck is kind of submerged and she's afraid of drowning, or she's afraid of being locked up alone in an elevator with a boy, where all kinds of things could happen from that scenario. So, yeah, this is just that kind of interesting sequence. The, I might get wet.
Once again, 999 is a serious game.jpg. It's up there with Your Meat is Hard. June just, like I said, she has a magical talent for making everything seem outrageously dirty and filthy. This girl needs Jesus. Badly.
Yeah. It still is rather funny considering just the length this conversation goes and just how long Junpei believes that this whole being locked alone in an elevator with a boy thing is what she is actually talking about. That's what I find hilarious. Not necessarily what she says, but just the length that this goes.
Yeah, this does go on for an awkward... It does a weird roller coaster where it's funny because, and then it gets awkward, and then it just keeps fucking going to the point that it rebounds to being funny again. And that doesn't successfully work most of the time. Usually you just stay in the pit of awkwardness, but this conversation manages to be so fucking awkward that it rebounds into amusing. I think it's certainly helped by the fact that June never catches on. Ever. Like, even when Junpei's like, look, you are talking about sex. And she's like, what? It's like, we're done here. We're done. Let's go get out of here so you don't die.
And then she gets Junpei thinking that this is how it actually works. So, that's an interesting implication, but still, God. I still think this is hilarious.
She just gets into your fucking head, and the crazy is contagious.
Yeah, in addition to all those curses and the mummies and all that, and the Titanic and conspiracies.
I'm honestly surprised she doesn't pull out a tinfoil hat. She is that close to being that bad that if she just pulled one out, I wouldn't be surprised to be like, oh, June, you're so psycho, you're so crazy, and at the same time so very, very dumb.
Yeah. I don't think that it was trying to go for that kind of personality. Like, they weren't trying to do that.
It was supposed to be aloof. Like, you totally get that she's at least aloof, maybe gullible, but it's just, she finds any opportunity to bring these things up. It's like, June, time and place. And this is neither of those.
So now Junpei has to explain to her that going down in the elevator is not necessarily the worst idea. Because, as he'll say it, as I'm talking slowly, he'll just send the elevator downstairs to, down to the D deck, and even to possibly a deck below, because I think there might be one, and then back up. Which is interesting, because that would indicate that only the D deck is submerged, and none of the other decks.
It's a smart idea. Junpei's got that engineering thought going on in there. Also, the logo on the elevator is, it looks like a sun to me.
That looks like a sun. Could be a daisy as well, or a flower of some sort.
but definitely more astrological symbology going on here. This one obviously isn't the actual astrological sign, but more just, oh, it looks like the sun.
And obviously, she had nothing to worry about. Going down to the elevator to the E deck will not get you wet, as she puts it.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow.
Although it would have made a hilarious moment if it actually did, if that elevator was full of water and it opened and they just completely went all over June.
And she'd be like, oh, I'm so wet. And Junpei would think of something very silly. He's a silly boy.
They're all silly people.
Yeah, Zero got lucky in kidnapping probably the most absent-minded, tangential people in the fucking world. It's like, let me find the 9 people that can go on topics of pseudoscience in the most dire of situations. That was probably on his list of criteria, because the Nonary game would be way less interesting if everyone had their mind on the game and had their eye on the ball and was just trying to get out. But no, everyone's got to tell their stories about friggin' essentially modern fairy tales and sci-fi little ditties. It's so the characters, but that's what makes them so likable, and that's how you relate to them, is by the silly stories they come up with.
Yeah, and again, they're incredibly well adjusted to this scenario, being kidnapped and put on a ship and being forced to playing a game. It's like, I mean, at the first there was a few moments like, oh god, this is so crazy, why are we doing this? But like, it's good. It's good for them that they're not like freaking out now, because like they have to work together if they want to survive. But again, still is a little bit jarring that they just got used to this thing so quickly.
Oh yeah, they've gotten so used to it, they know how it works. They can tell other people about what's the Nonary game and what's not the Nonary game. Which again, you just know what Zero has let you figure out. You know nothing of the true greater scheme, so I mean, you can follow the rules, but you're just following what you believe to be, and also those very vague beginning instructions about the Reds and Deads.
And so after that hilarious discussion, we're down in the E deck, where things are a lot more industrial than anything above.
Yeah, I think the E and lower decks, obviously, with these kinds of cruise ships, were more for luggage, storage, and obviously lower income passengers. To the point that they don't even get beds, because the, not the hospital, but definitely the room with all the beds, that's sort of a mid-lower economic class, and then you would get to the point where you had people sleeping next to other people's luggage.
Yeah, that was, I think above the D deck. Was that what you were talking? Yeah, the D deck, the one that's completely submerged, the one that's where the first rooms were, where we woke up in. Yeah,
you have those, and then obviously the one where the drugged up old man is currently residing, coming down off his high. I still find that funny that Ace is somewhere on this boat, high out of his mind. Well, not so much high, but he's definitely drugged. He is loopy, to say the least.
So, while these sections are happening, these are obviously kind of boring unless you're like playing for your first time. But even so, there still is this tension, this high tension that you know that something bad could happen at any moment. And I think, again, the first time I was playing this game, it pulled that off very well. Like, even as these like novel sequences went up to about like, I don't know, an hour or so, I was still very, very paranoid that, oh god, something's gonna happen. Someone's gonna die. I might die.
Yeah, I'm also I spent this whole time waiting for the next person to die, because they killed off the 9th guy pretty fucking quick, so I'm like, alright, so when's the a decision to kill someone else off? Like, Snake disappearing, to me, the first time I was playing the game, was synonymous with Snake died. Like, he died in my head the moment he disappeared. So it's like, alright, Snake's gone. Now, who's the next to go? I thought it was Ace that died by drugging, but he's still alive, so you gave me that death fake out, so the real death is going to be coming up here soon. Waiting for it. Who's going to get the axe?
And so while we were looking at the number 6 door in the E deck, they found the number 1 door, which I believe was on the A deck? So all the way on the top of the ship.
Yeah, the game is also starting to get less linear. I mean, the Nonary game, not this game. This game is it's a straight line. But the Nonary game, in terms of like how doors are appearing on different levels in different areas, and they're not just all lined up like they've been for the first 2 rounds. I would call those rounds of the game.
7 seems to be a little nervous about something.
Did you see a fish out the window? Because that would freak me out too. No, his whole getup just gives me a fisherman's vibe. It's definitely the yellow overalls that just remind me of like fishing waders.
Oh, god damn it.
Are you sure you didn't just like hallucinate that dude? I mean, you're kind of in an unreliable state of mind at this very moment, so I'm taking everything you say as a grain of salt. I mean, next you're going to be telling me that the walls are melting, and we know that's not happening just yet.
Well, 7 pretty much has the same demeanor as him, he just couldn't say it. So, obviously, yeah, I'm pretty sure Snake is dead. We haven't seen Clover, though, so, there's a slight possibility. Very slight. Very slight. Very, very slight.
I really would not have liked this cutscene if Clover was there and present. It would just be her freaking out, being hysterical, thrashing about, just being like a shitty little kid in a grocery store who's not getting candy.
Yeah, and to come to think of it, you have to imagine, like, what it would be like when she saw his dead body. Just, like, the game never shows it. I'm just going to say that now. The game never shows her reacting to that very moment. But still, gee, considering that how emotionally unstable she has become over this course of 2 hours in such little time, it could have been very intense.
It could have, but at the same time, I don't think the game would have been able to do it properly. Like, the way she acts before and after this incident are pretty extreme. So you have to imagine the peak of those emotions, and they're so high that I don't think the game would be able to do it without making it seem really silly or forced, or just it wouldn't feel right. Just getting her before and after and the actions that happen because of those emotions, I think work more effectively than like giving her like a shrieking moment, because it would just be really silly, especially in a text game, because that's sort of something that would play more strongly with audio, like if you could hear her scream or something like that, or gasp, or however she actually reacts to the scene.
And here comes another one of the game's grisly, very well written, but grisly descriptions of a dead body, especially one that's been blown up.
Game's forte, bro.
Mm-hmm. Just the very suspension of watching.
It's also really generic, like, slasher movie music. Like, this game does have good music, but the tune that plays in these scenes, like, it's so generic and straight out of a slasher movie. You know, just violins and shit.
It like, the first time I had heard it, I was thinking, yeah, it's kind of like that, but it, like, remained persistent throughout the game, and it reminded me of that, like, the suspense song from the Phoenix Wright games, the one that has pretty much been throughout all of the games, that plays whenever something isn't going right.
Yeah, I think I know which one.
It's that really, really synthy one that it goes like, hold on.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I know the one now.
Yes, I'm musically inclined, so I kind of know how to do that, sort of. Yeah, God, these descriptions are just, wow. comparing blood to raw pizza dough covered with tomato sauce.
Boy, I sure am getting hungry now.
So am I.
And it's like anytime you compare something to pizza, it's like, you know what? I was creeped up, and now I'm not.
And we'll see you next time for more 999.